Apparently it's really cool.
Apparently it's...
Oh wait, this is live. Getting us all in trouble, are you? Okay. Let's get these out a little. I'll share one with Scott. Pass these down. I think two per person. Oh.
Two per person?
One per, two people per one. Scott, come around. Oh, that's fine. You don't want to.
No.
What happened?
Across my leg,
You heard
there's a thing here.
Happens.
There. Just in case anyone wants to.
Do you have any more?
That's all I got.
How about y'all share?
You're gonna have to, yeah, some of you are gonna have to share. Okay. Okay, everybody. So this is actually.
Wait, are you sure this is how you spell the sheet?
I could have spelled it wrong.
No.
I might have spelled it wrong.
SHEET?
No, it's like this.
Next time hire, spell it in Hebrew.
It's the right...
Hey, wait a minute.
That is the correct
Yeah.
Bereshit. Okay.
Oh, John.
Okay. So because we're on Facebook Live, we're just going to go straight to the class.
Is it this week or is it just...
No. So this coming week,
No.
this coming week is the Parsha of Noah. But because last week was Bereshit, and there's so much content on that portion, I'm sharing some words from that Parsha. It's a very fascinating Parsha. The secrets of the world are really included in that Parsha. Okay, it has all of the code for the creation of the world. It's the blueprint for our faith. We all know the battle that is out there at large about, science versus religion and what's the origins of the world. We're really all tackling, the entire world is really tackling this issue of where do we come from, where does the world come from? And the Torah makes very clear from the very beginning that there is one creator that created the world. Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Okay, literally translated is that in the beginning, okay, God created the heavens and the earth. That's the very beginning. The amount of content on just those few words is enormous. But what I chose to focus on for tonight's class is the sin of Adam and Eve, the sin of Adam and Chava. Very fascinating to think about the fact that barely, the sages say that the sin actually occurred on the day that they were created. So it must be that they were created already in adult form. So let me get some ideas across. Okay?
I thought it was on Shabbos, not...
What? No, not on Shabbos, on the sixth day. They were created on the sixth day, the same day as the
one
animals.
long day, but it was already on Shabbos.
What do you mean?
Friday.
Oh, the sin happened on Shabbos?
Yeah.
Oh, could be. I don't know. It doesn't matter. They were still one day old, right?
Yeah.
So either way, so the question is like this. If everybody could please look at your sheets, let's read the full paragraph that deals with the sin. We're going to ask a couple questions, and we're going to try to see if we can dissect through what's going on here. Okay? So we're in Genesis chapter 3, verse 1 till 7. Okay? I didn't include the English because it would have taken up too much space, so I'll read the Hebrew, follow with me, and I'll translate. Okay? V'hanachash haya arum, and the snake was naked, mikol chayat hasadeh, from all other animals of the field. I think arum means naked in this context. Asher asa Hashem Elokim, which God created. Vayomer el ha'isha, and God said to the woman. Sorry, the snake said to the woman, Af ki amar Elokim lo tochlu mikol eitz hagan. Even though God said, do not eat from the tree of the garden, the woman said back to the snake, from the fruit of the trees of the garden we can eat. However, However, from the fruit of the tree that's inside the gan, Amar Elokim lo tochlu mimenu, that God said, do not eat from it, v'lo tigu bo, and not touch it, pen temutun, lest you will die. And here I wrote the next words in bold. Vayomer hanachash el ha'isha, lo mot temutun. The snake said to the woman, you will not die. Next verse, Ki yodei Elokim, because God knows, Ki beyom acholcha mimenu, that when the day comes, if you eat from this tree, v'nifkechu einechem, your eyes will open up, your mind will open up, v'hiyitem kelokim, and you will be like God, as it were. Yodei tov vara, you will know the difference between good and evil. Vatere ha'isha, ki tov ha'etz lema'achal, the woman saw that the tree was good to eat, v'chita'avahu la'einayim, and that it was lustful to the eyes, meaning it looked good. V'nechmad ha'etz lehaskil, and it was pleasant, the tree was pleasant to contemplate. V'tikach mipirio v'tochel, and she took from the fruit and she ate. V'titein gam le'isha ima v'yocham, she also gave to her husband and he ate. Last verse. V'tipakachna einei shenehem, their eyes both opened up. Vayedu ki arumimhem, and they understood that they were naked. Vayitperu ale te'ena, and they took fig leaves. Vayasu lahem chagorot, and they made for themselves. Literally, that means belts, but whatever it means, they covered themselves. So there's a couple obvious questions that come to mind here. The first of which is, if you take a look at the next source, it says in Rashi, right, when the snake was trying to convince Eve that she's not going to die, what did he say? He said, lo timutun, lo mot timutun, you will not die. That's not such a convincing argument if you think about it, right? If God is telling them, don't eat the tree, you're going to die, so why does the snake succeed in telling them, you could eat the tree, you're not going to die? So Rashi explains, the famous commentary says, Dechafa ad shenagabo. I'm in the second source. He pushed her until she touched it. Amarla, he said to her, Keshem she'ein mita benigia. You see how you didn't die just now? You touched the tree and you didn't die? The same way you didn't die when touching it, kach ein mita ba'achila. So too, you won't die if you eat it. This is very strange, because like you're about to ask, how can the snake know what's going to happen if they eat? And even if it's true that she's not dying from touching it, two questions. Number one, that she's not eating it. Number two is that, who says? Maybe the day is long. Maybe she'll die later. Why is she convinced by this proof? Right? So the first question, before we saw Rashi, was very clear. The question was, why? What's the snake's argument? God said you'll die if you eat from the tree. The snake says you won't die. So question A is, what kind of argument is the snake making? But even after Rashi gives us an explanation that says that it's not just that he told her that, he actually physically pushed her into the tree. She touched the tree. She touched the tree, did not die, and the snake said, "Aha, you didn't die. If you touch it and don't die, you also, if you eat it, you won't die."
Actually, I heard that the reason why she didn't want to touch it because Adam told her not to touch it.
Adam told her not to touch
Because
it?
God told him don't eat it. He didn't say don't touch it.
Interesting.
So Adam was doing that's what I heard from Rabbi, who was it? The Rabbi Gavin? No.
Okay.
Went to his shul in Bel Air on Sunday. So
Interesting.
he said that Adam was actually did how do you call it?
A warning?
Extra precaution. He told her
Don't even touch it.
Yeah, don't even touch
So
it.
the snake was already loosening the barrier by telling her, look, even what your husband said, you touched it now and nothing happened. Same thing is true. If you eat it, nothing will happen.
What was the snake's intention, goal?
What was the snake's goal?
Doesn't Rashi say that the snake actually wanted to steal
Chava.
from
Yes.
Adam?
I don't know if it's... Yeah, Rashi does say that somewhere, I think. Yeah. So that was one possible rationale. Another rationale is that the Yetzer Hara was the personification of the way we call it Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. Before Adam and Chava ate from the tree, whatever evil existed in the world, okay, was external. The snake represented that. As soon as Adam and Eve ate from the tree, the evil inclination switched from being an external element to being an internal element, which we struggle with to this day. We are made up of body and soul, and our bodily inclinations are really the expression of the Yetzer Hara. Okay, it's not that our bodies are evil, it's that our Yetzer Hara, our evil inclination, is trying to make our bodies master over our souls, when really our objective is to do the opposite, to make our souls the master of our body. But we're going to get there soon. So another possible answer to you is that the rationale is basically that's what its objective is in this world. Because if God created the world, then God also created the evil inclination. Whether the evil inclination is a snake, or whether it's within us, it's there from God, right? So question number one is, what's the snake's argument? And how is it convincing Chava, Eve? Okay? Question number two, we have a couple questions here. Question number two is like this. If we just finished saying that the evil inclination was exterior, and Adam and Eve themselves were fully good, then what room was there for them to sin? Okay? We kind of discussed this 2 weeks ago, so hold off for a second, but think about it for a second. Whatever causes us to sin, whenever we want to sin, it's really our Yetzer Hara coming in, our evil inclination, and telling us, this is what's really good for you. Don't think about God for a second, right? This is what's going to be good for you. Okay? Watching this inappropriate content, eating this problematic food, or whatever it is, staying up late or sleeping in, all of those different things, when we make decisions like that go counter to what's going to get us elevated, that's really the Yetzer Hara talking. So whatever we do in Avera, that's the Yetzer Hara that's facilitating that. That doesn't mean we have to listen to the Yetzer Hara, right? God created us with an ability to overcome that Yetzer Hara. But how are Adam and Eve sinning? They didn't have an internal Yetzer Hara. So what's prompting them to sin? You hear the question? That's a big question that I have. Okay?
Maybe to them it wasn't a sin.
No?
They thought that maybe they didn't know it was wrong. Maybe they convinced themselves.
How, when God tells you not to eat from a tree, and that's the only thing I'm asking you to do, how is that not crystal clear?
Are we going under the assumption that Adam and Eve were man and woman just like we are, men and women? Or are we going
however you look at it, Tzvi, however you look at it, they were created, they understood God, they understood the existence of God, and they were told one thing: don't eat from the tree.
Did Eve ever speak to God? Did God
Don't
ever
know.
speak to Eve? Right.
I don't know.
Well, she's got to go on is what her husband told her.
Did maybe God set them up to fail?
Did God set them up to fail? But then why would God command them not to?
Human being,
It can't be that
human-
no, one
that
second.
human-
It can't be that God is asking them not to do something, wanting them to violate His commandment. That doesn't make sense.
But before-
How does that make sense? Explain that to me.
Before that, they couldn't believe.
The snake was actually escalating the woman to sin.
But why does the man and the woman have the ability to listen to the snake?
Because they have
They don't have an internal Yetzer Hara.
No, but they have
It's external.
what's it called? A freedom of will.
But do they? I'm not saying you're wrong, but do they? My understanding of freedom of will is a balance of desires. We have bodily desires and spiritual desires. You coming here tonight versus watching the baseball game is you following your spiritual desires. Unless there's something weird I'm missing about a baseball game, right? It's like, Rabbi, I get so emotionally fulfilled by watching Altuve hit that home run, I'm telling you.
He hasn't
right?
yet. It's 3-0. We're losing.
We're losing?
3-0.
Oh no.
It's October. Baseball's important.
Baseball's important, yeah, right? So,
But
She's
no,
not 100% not one.
not 100%.
she's got the game going on there under the table.
It's there.
So my guess is, Chaim, is that if we are told, which we are told, that Adam and Eve did not have an internal evil inclination, then what prompted them? What facilitated their sinning?
Well, okay. Does having
I understand, but how did they have the ability to fall prey to the snake? Let me give you an example. Let's talk Joseph and Potiphar's wife. You all know the story, right? Joseph gets to Egypt. He's taken out of. He's immediately sold to Potiphar. Potiphar's wife, the sages tell us, foresaw that she would have children with Joseph. She made a mistake. It was really her daughter that would eventually marry Joseph. I'm giving you the deeper meaning here. But literally, she has the hots for Joseph. She wants to be with Joseph. And Joseph keeps turning her off, until finally, she catches him alone at home, and there's no one there, and she corners him, and she almost wants to force him to be with her. And she grabs him by the clothing. And the sages actually say that had it not been for Joseph seeing a vision of his father in front of him, even Joseph the tzaddik, the righteous, would have, God forbid, succumbed to the sin of, God forbid, being with a married woman, which is a cardinal sin in Judaism. In the end, what happens? He leaves his clothing by Potiphar's wife, and he runs out, and she screams, and she frames him, and he ends up in jail, and that's how the story continues. Now, what is it that would be prompting Joseph to succumb to this Avera? It's the evil inclination. Do you think Joseph wants to do an Avera? Do you think any of us ever want to do an Avera? Do you think any of us ever really wants to sin? When we say something bad about someone else, or to someone else, or we watch something that we shouldn't be watching, or we do things that we shouldn't be doing, do we want to be those people? I think deep down, we all know that we don't want to be bad people. We don't want to be doing things that go counter to Judaism, to the Torah. Why do we do them? And by the way, we all do them. We were created with a Yetzer Hara. It's understood that everybody sins, and life is a journey of trying to limit as much as we can and growing in the process. But why do we? We have a Yetzer Hara, an internal evil inclination that's prompting us to sin. How did Adam and Chava, who were lacking this, sin? Question number 2. I want to hear your answer.
I just getting confused because you just said that back then, before Yetzer Hara was internal.
It was external.
External.
My question is, so why should an external? Internal makes more sense to me than external. It makes more sense to me that an internal evil inclination has a capacity to make us sin than an external one. Because an internal one, you're struggling with who you are.
I can explain to you as a salesperson that I was in the Dead Sea. You never walked in the mall and maybe ego or someone stopped you and tried to sell you that
would have been a lot of fun.
It's external. You might think like, I'm not going to fall for that. You will eventually.
Yeah?
Yeah, because it's external, The salesperson has a lot of techniques that he can just influence your mind to create you in a buying.
Not a Jedi. It's not like you will buy this mug.
I don't
My room. I will buy that.
He had the ability to influence you, in levels that you didn't understand, and you just.
Well, they have hypnosis, right?
No, you just find yourself doing stuff. Hey, maybe it's like I don't really need that.
Maybe that's what Jungle Book got their idea from. Oh, really? I think
Everything written since 1500 is based on Shakespeare or the Bible.
Yeah, right.
It's nothing else.
Yeah, no, it's supposed to be based off that.
So it's the same way. I just feel like the snake did the same techniques, to influence them.
The first time.
Okay. Did they have a good inclination? Did they have an inclination to do good?
Yes.
But you can't have one without the other, because what good?
Oh, so this is Chaim's question. Do we assume that Adam and Eve had free will, notwithstanding the fact that their evil inclination was external? That's the question. And last question that I have.
Actually, they did. There's a proof that they did have free will, because I read that during the time that they read the Parsha, and it said that it was Midrash. They said that God asked Adam to name all the animals. So he asked help from the angels, and the angels are puppets. They have no opinion. So he had to do all the work of giving names to the animals by himself. He didn't do it randomly. He gave them names with purpose. So he was very smart.
That doesn't necessarily prove anything about free will. That just proves that he had wisdom. Yeah, I'm talking wisdom. Free will is the battle the constant battle between making decisions that will affect you one way versus another. Okay, so that was 2 questions. And the last question, first of all, is that we have, if you take a look at the third source, this is a Talmud in Nedarim, a famous Gemara, which says that ones rachmana patre. Judaism does not penalize you for violating a sin that was out of your control. So the question now is going to be, is that the snake pushed her to the tree. And if her touching the tree facilitated to her believing the snake, which facilitated her to eat from the tree, then even if she's somewhat at fault for eating from the tree, it was all initiated through an ones, through an accident.
What
punishment? The question is,
What punishment?
Huh?
They weren't punished.
They were punished. What do you mean?
What was their punishment?
They were banished from Gan
Yeah,
Eden.
that's because
They lost their mortality.
That wasn't because
They lost their immortality.
No, they didn't lose their immortality.
Huh?
They're still immortal. Just no longer. They don't.
No, that's not true.
Physical
That's
beings.
not true. They were not supposed to die. As soon as they ate, they became.
Okay, they lost the ability to have a mortal body, an immortal body. They still have an immortal soul, right?
Right.
And they weren't banished because out of some kind of punishment. From what I understand, they were banished because of who they now were after eating from the tree. They just couldn't be in the garden. Here's the thing. That is a punishment, because being in the garden was the optimum existence. It was the ultimate closeness to God.
You didn't actually have to work the land; it was just given to you. So in
Right.
other words, it's an
It was paradise, and they were kicked out of it. So that's a punishment. What was your question? Yes. 1 second. Scott has a question.
What is the point of giving to an entity higher than the angels immortality and creating paradise and taking away the evil inclination entirely, so where you're only an entity or a vessel of good, to take it away within a day if it's not all set up to go that way in the first place?
Hence the future answer to question number 1. Hold that thought. That's exactly where we're going. Shira?
I think I was going to go. Yeah, I think it might have been set up instead, because I think Steve's right, and you're also right. There was a built-in punishment. There was a built-in punishment in the fruit. He expected them to fail, and in that fruit held the power to.
That's interesting.
Is
God creating a creation that He expects to fail, or is God giving us the ability to fail or succeed? One of the underlying themes in our theology is that God's good lies in the very fact that we actually really have equal choice. Even if God knows that we're going to sin, God gave us a fair chance. I always do this. Anybody have a pen?
Don't we always have to...
Yes, one of your points. Anybody have a pen?
So my point is, built into the fruit was already the stripping of
jacket in the dining kitchen, or maybe somewhere I have a jacket that has a pen inside.
built into the fruit was basically you get evicted,
Yeah.
and your eyes are open,
And you have to work for them.
and you have to work the land.
Yeah.
But he never killed them. He didn't. I mean, yes, they died, but I think that was built into the fruit. It wasn't that he just smited
Okay,
them.
so you're adding another question: is that if the punishment was officially that they were going to die? Thank you so much. Then why didn't God end up giving them the punishment?
You will die on the spot. The wording was you will die. They did.
Right. They did eventually die. Thank you, Tzvi. It means that they will eventually die. Now, some of you have seen this many times for me, but I'm gonna do it for you anyways, because we all stand to gain from
Can I
this.
just finish my point from before?
Yes.
About not being a punishment.
Yes.
They were kicked out of the Garden of Eden, but it wasn't a punishment. It's just they couldn't be there with what they now knew, the knowledge they now had. It just didn't work.
Yeah, but the Torah says that He banished them from.
Yeah, but it doesn't say He punished them.
That was the punishment. Of course.
No, but it never says it was a punishment. It just
Want to
says.
give me a chumash?
You ever been banished?
Give me a chumash. It's clearly a punishment.
If I get banished from a bar, it's a punishment,
Right.
no matter what I've done.
They were in paradise.
I don't
living-
get a drink.
If you
Nobody
don't-
gets banished for a good reason.
No,
Hashem had Rahmanas on them, but
when
they
you
still,
reached
they
the
still
whatever age you
abandoned.
were and you
Yeah.
finally left your parents' house,
Didn't kill them.
did they do that because they were punishing you, or because no, it's time for you to get out and live your own life?
Well, no, I left on purpose.
When you get kicked out of the bar, it's not because you're being punished. It's because the bar doesn't want you there damaging their property. None of them were punishments.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
so-
if you're
No,
permanently
it's a
banished, then it's a
consequence, which is
punishment.
another
You're a likely
word
candidate to damage the bar. Did you get banished?
It's a consequence. It's just a
Not for
synonym.
that reason.
Okay, so
Exactly.
No, it's still a punishment though. Go back.
so Shira mentioned
Consequence,
the
not punishment.
the
Okay,
expectation of sin.
consequence, but it's
right?
still the same thing.
So when we talk about God having created the world, we talk about God creating the world as being the manifestation of the truth in God's good. Let me repeat that, okay? I've said this many times. It's something that I love repeating because to me it rings true. Is that the reason why God created the world was not because God needed it for him, not because God needed it for us. Rather, God is good, and the natural manifestation, and therefore the truth in that goodness, was manifested in creation. However, the ultimate good would not be true if it consisted of just robots living in a world, because that would lack a certain element of meaningfulness. So, one second. So what did God do? God not only created a world, God not only created animals, trees, plants, and create life, God created a being that was itself capable of enjoying the greatest good possible, which is closeness to Hashem. But not just that, the ability to earn that closeness. Okay? So God created the world, God created plants, God created human beings, but God also created free will. Free will is part of that greatest good. Okay? How that fits into the story of Adam and Eve is a good question. But Shira, you said that maybe it was anticipated. That's tough with this model, because if this is the beginning of person A's life, he has throughout his life decisions to make. Good or bad, spiritual or physical, good or bad, right? Etc., etc. So God knows what he's going to do, but God still gives him the chance to choose what he's going to do. Because God is seeing his life from every vantage point. God is seeing a person's decision from the past, from the present, from the future. God's beyond time. And therefore, God can know what I'm going to do, while still me, in my world, in my finite world where I have time, I can still have free will in my world. You understand? So Adam and Eve...
Like the scene from the Bruce Almighty when he tells him how
I don't remember that movie.
It's more like the bookshelf in Interstellar.
Oh, baby.
That's just the bookshelf.
I don't know the one.
I'm sorry, Shira. We're gonna.
Oh, she didn't watch the movie.
That's unacceptable. Sure. Okay,
Wait,
so
Wait,
I still haven't watched
yes.
that stuff.
So you say he gives
Yeah,
two
I
options.
really
That
like
means he
space.
anticipates both.
No, not anticipates. Offers both. Meaning, in life, we have free will. We can choose. Do any of you ever feel that your free will in day-to-day activities is compromised?
No.
Absolutely not.
Meaning,
What?
I think we all agree that there are some things in our life that are out of our control.
Right.
To a large degree, our health. To a large degree, our livelihood. To a large degree. I say to a large degree for a reason, because
I don't agree.
Okay, we'll fight it out.
I agree 100% every day, all day, yeah.
Okay, good. That doesn't mean that you can't help your health. That doesn't mean that you can't help your livelihood. But ultimately, right? Ultimately, it is to a large degree completely out of your control. Right? What kind of society you grow up in, who your parents are, all of those things. But there are things that are in your control. The rabbis tell us the one thing that's in our control is our yirat shamayim, our free will. How we decide in our lifetime to make decisions that take us closer to Hashem.
But
Right?
let me ask you this. I just heard it from one guy also on Sunday. He said, imagine that if you were put into a big house and you say you can go to any room in the house, but this specific room, don't get in there. If you're going to get in there, you're going to die. You know, the first thing that's going to go into your mind is like,
What's in
That's always
there?
killing people.
exactly.
Yeah. I hear.
Curiosity.
Yeah, God did create man with curiosity, didn't he?
Yes. Yes, he certainly did.
That
That's
in
part of the
itself-
free will. Part of the
is
free will is
that in
overcoming
itself
that curiosity.
more-
Listen, I've watched MasterChef. I'm not going to lie. Some of that seafood looks good. I'm not gonna lie, but
I've always wanted to try lobster. Still to this day, I haven't tried lobster.
see, that's
It
actually
looks delicious.
That's actually the scariest looking one in my books.
Someone commented about what we're talking about.
What?
Like a lobster roll.
Our outcomes are out of our control, but our actions are in our control. Okay. Itzi Artman wants to say that our outcomes are out of our control, but our actions are in our
I would
control.
say semi out of our control for the outcomes.
Our outcome are actually results of our thoughts. So if we think about something, it's actually resulting in the reality eventually.
Yeah.
If God built in curiosity, doesn't that mean he might have anticipated this?
Well,
So we're
I don't know
back to-
what it depends what you mean by
He
anticipated.
set them up to fail.
If what you
I'm not
mean
saying
is
he set them
if
up
you
to
what
fail, but
if-
I'm saying
Well, he knows by curiosity. He knows what they were going to do.
he said,
Would they have been able to have kids if they hadn't been kicked out of the... Like, if they hadn't sinned, would they have had children?
Yeah.
So there would have been more and more people in the
Yes.
world with this this one commandment applying to... What are the
To
chances that
populate
every
the world.
single one of them wouldn't...
God probably would create more commandments, you know, he didn't stop there and say,
Well, why
okay,
would he?
just don't eat from the tree.
No,
That's
at
a
the
good
time
point.
it was the only one.
Why
Why would he? At the time it was the only one.
If humans
I don't know,
are
what if you tell you
intelligent,
still have to keep Shabbos, you still have to make a meal, you still have
They didn't have to. They
go
didn't
to
have to do
shul.
any of
Didn't
that.
have to eat the apple.
It was just, it wasn't enough. It was an esrog.
The fruit.
Or
It
fig.
was a fig.
An esrog.
It could have been a
there's four
pomegranate.
kinds. An esrog, a fig.
I think it's a pomegranate. That sounds
A
right.
pomegranate, I think, was one of them, and then there's one of the
I don't like fig. I don't.
Rochester.
God wasn't
I'll give it
setting them
another
up
try,
to
though. I'll give it
fail.
another
God was setting up
But
humanity
Like
Rabbi,
to
why
reach
did you
our ultimate
create
pinnacle
one
of
tree that they
possibility.
cannot eat from in
Redemption.
the first place? Why is it not saying like we can eat
There's
from
nothing more
whatever
human
we
than
want?
redemption.
No problem.
nothing
That's
more
it.
human than redemption.
No, that's it. Name another
Like a
species
fig,
that
yeah,
experiences
like a
redemption.
Right, but
I don't know.
any of other things
I've had
that
a
we
big
experience that others
I've had
others
a
don't.
Not to
It
that
kind of
degree.
reminds me
So
like
in
what
some
Not to the-
places,
not to the
like,
point where you
meant for failure.
You
Like,
can
one
make
of
an
the reasons
entire
I'm
social
human being
code
will
I need to
actually
revisit.
hear
But then why are they
out of this
punished?
one
Why are they
experience.
punished? Why is it fair to them to get punished if that was what was meant to happen? I agree with what Shira was saying. Anticipated. If what she meant by saying God anticipated is that God knew that it would happen, that's one thing. But that God planned for it to happen, that's a different thing. That's a different thing.
You know, I can give you that example from, I just watched it in the last season of The Big Brother. They did the same
It's a good thing we have all these movies and TV shows so that we can know what's going on.
Yeah, The
Telling
Big
you.
Brother over here in the US, they made the same concept on Adam and Eve. So in the first episode, they put all the competitors in one room and they told, you can choose either to, if you click the first person who click on some kind of a trigger, you get $25,000. But if nobody chooses, there's not going to be any consequences on the house. Guess what happened?
So good.
Yeah. So they anticipate that someone will take
Wait a second.
the
On the
temptation.
topic of movies and anticipation, the scene in Batman with the two boats where they put a switch in each boat
yeah.
and anticipate that one of them is going to blow the other up and it doesn't happen. Free will, my friend.
I think you
Free
like
will.
Christopher Nolan.
Huh?
Yeah, that's gotta be.
Oh, same director?
Same director.
Oh, I have to meet that man someday. Okay, either way, last question.
Dunkirk as well.
Oh, that was good. You liked it?
Yeah,
It was good, right? Because you're British. Can I tell you, last question. Take a look at what I bolded at the end of the first source. So all of a sudden, she ate from the tree. She gave her husband Adam to eat from the tree. And then all of a sudden, last verse, "Vatipakachna einei shnehem," their eyes opened up, and behold, vayedu ki erumim hem. They realized that they were naked. Guys, the question should be staring at us in the face. What's the question? What's the question? Shira.
Answer to your question, but this is something that just occurred to me. You keep talking about free will, and curiosity and built-in plans. But he created them with his free will, which means he created them with choices. He created them with his curiosity, and he created the fruit already with a built-in punishment. You don't think that there's any chance he might have almost intended it?
Not intended, but when you say anticipated, if what anticipated means is that God left it as a possibility, then I would say yes. I would not say that God there. So what we're getting to Scott's answer, because there is so I think what we're going to say soon is going to help clarify this a lot. But I just want to finish with one last question, and that is, what's the question, guys?
What do you mean they realized they were naked? They were always naked.
yeah.
Why
If they
didn't
were
say
naked
before?
this entire
Right.
time,
But
what
I don't-
changed that now that they eat from the tree?
That's why
Right?
the tree
It's
called-
not-
Yeah, like
It's
what
not what the tree
changed
did
that
to
now
them.
all of a sudden they recognize their nakedness?
That's
They
why
got
the
cold.
tree
It's
called
why
the
the
tree
tree
of
Self-awareness.
around back then.
Oh, so before the tree of knowledge, they don't have knowledge enough to know that they're naked. What does that
Well,
mean?
actually, the word it
Well,
uses
self-awareness.
is
They didn't have to.
their placement
right?
in the world.
There was no modesty. There was no need for
means-
modesty.
and
No need for
There was
modesty.
no fear.
No,
Okay.
I don't. They didn't. The tree itself. I gave
No
them the.
fear, no, okay.
They're afraid that they
No
may, they're
embarrassment.
afraid that they might get hurt. They're afraid that they might, I don't know, not be modest. There's all these sudden insecurities and self-awareness that they didn't have before. All these little things. It's basically a Pandora's box and a fruit.
I like it.
Eating from the tree. It was.
The tree of truth.
There was something to it. It wasn't just. There was two trees in the garden that they were. That were
Tree of life.
tree of life and the tree of knowledge. The tree of knowledge gave them the ability to see the difference between good and evil, right?
Right.
So now they along with that, everything that could be good or evil is now they know, right? It's not just that they can recognize it when they see it, but they also know what's good and evil. So suddenly they realize they're naked. That uses the word vayedu, the root of the word is the same as knowledge.
Right.
It means, and they knew they were naked, really, right?
Right.
Right.
I mean, you translate it as realize because it's a sudden knowledge, but it's not they knew they were naked, right?
Okay.
And then they see the
So
the evil
what
in it
you
because
all seem to be saying is that
modesty.
they were lacking before the sin of eating from the tree. They were lacking in whatever sensitivity there was towards the concept of
They didn't know
modesty.
what evil meant.
Okay,
Maybe
or
it
you
wasn't
could
evil,
say
maybe it
that
wasn't
the
evil.
level of life that they were living before the tree didn't necessitate modesty. Meaning, it could be there was some sort of spirit that permeated the world after they ate from the tree that made it that now it's embarrassing to not be clothed. Shira?
Well, okay, this is sort of a far-fetched theory, but like when you think about children or like babies and, they're pure, they're innocent, they're not concerned that they're naked running around your living room. But when
So
you're...
according to you,
but
if
it's
someone's born in the jungle, lives their entire life naked, and shows up in LA, they'll be perfectly fine running around.
Perfectly fine in his mind.
In his mind, yeah?
Everyone else
No, I think
maybe
they'd
not so
realize
much.
they'd be like,
Even in
But they, unlike a child, unlike an infant who'll look around, like the adult would still look around and be like, oh, everyone else is doing this. I'm different. Whereas an infant won't care.
Mm-hmm.
There's still that purity there, I would say.
So you're saying it has to do with purity, and they lost that purity when they violated the word of God.
In some way.
Innocence.
Innocence, that's a
Innocence.
better word.
Okay, so I'm going to develop two ideas that are hopefully going to help answer some of these questions, and whatever we're left with is homework for next week, I guess. Okay, so these are all ideas that I've heard from my rabbi, and it's all sourced. If you guys want the sources, I can get them to you. So idea number one is like this. Regarding them feeling their nakedness, the idea is very simple. The idea is like this, is that, like we said, man was created of body and soul. And depending on where the evil inclination is our own self-identity. What that means is that before the sin of eating from the tree, being that the evil inclination was an external deity, I don't know if the right word is deity, external thing, okay? The entire individuality of the human being, i.e. Adam and Eve, was one of ruchaniyut, was one of spirituality. And therefore, when my entire existence is in the spiritual domain, even though I'm in a physical body, my physical body, kind of like what Shira was saying, my physical body is merely clothing, right? How much do we really think about our clothing as we go through our day at the end, right? Depends on temperature. Okay, here in Houston, that's really the wrong question to ask. But in Hebrew terminology, our clothing is really batel. It's really nullified to us because the clothing is just clothing. It's there to keep us warm, to cover us, etc. They, before the sin, related to their bodies the way we relate to our clothing. And that's why their nakedness was not anything to think much about. It was clothing. They were existing on an entirely spiritual level. What happened when they sinned with the tree? Something phenomenal happened. And the evil inclination switched from being an external thing to being an internal thing. What was the ramifications of the evil inclination becoming an internal thing? We now no longer have the same level of clarity as to our self-individuality. Now we have the same aim. We still want to ultimately journey through life identifying more and more with spirituality than physicality, but it doesn't come natural anymore. And it's not easy. And it's a conflict, and it's a confusion. As soon as they sinned with the tree, they felt that confusion. And it's the feeling of that confusion which is being expressed in the words, Vayedu ki erumim. They knew that they were naked. They knew that they were naked because they knew that, now he's in us. Now we're forever damned to fight, to determine whether we're going to identify with our bodies and sin, or identify with our souls and get closer to God. I just want to make one quick disclaimer, is that not automatically when you are indulging with your body are you automatically sinning. God forbid. God gave us a beautiful physical world for us to enjoy, but I use the word enjoy and not indulge. Because there's a difference between enjoy. Look what we're doing tonight. We're enjoying a good meal. Enjoying a good meal in the context of spirituality is a good thing. Not only is it not a bad thing, it's a good thing. You're making blessings on the food. It's giving us energy to enjoy the class, to pay attention, whatever, all the different things. Making a bracha, all of those things are in the spiritual domain. So it's not that automatically a person that's involved in the physical domain is automatically doing something negative. That's not at all the case. But as soon as they ate from that tree, there was created this identity crisis. So that kind of helps us answer question number 3. Now, I want to say something that could hopefully help us with Scott's question, because he's asking a really tough question. And the answer that I heard is like this. And some of you touched upon this. It was not Adam's evil inclination that brought him, and Chava for that matter, to eat from the tree, but it was Adam's good inclination. Adam and Eve thought that they were doing good by eating from the tree. Oh, but wait, Rabbi, God told them not to. Okay. But they're thinking that, wait a second, like Scott was asking, what kind of an existence is it for me to basically be made up of only good, right? If I am made up of only good, I am somewhat limited in my ability to get even closer. Meaning, my level of closeness to God is at a tremendous high point, but I didn't really deserve it. I didn't earn it. I didn't express that wanting, that longing of getting closer. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to violate God and then come close to God, notwithstanding the evil inclination. I am going to create an existence for myself that's going to enable me to get closer to Hashem on an even greater level, because once God sees that with my internal evil inclination, I can still overcome it and make decisions that take me closer and closer to Him, that's even greater. That's even greater. Right? Thoughts?
Wouldn't God
So why are they getting punished?
Yeah.
Because God told them not to.
He wasn't punished.
They were punished.
In life, sometimes we have the best motives.
Like, why do good things happen?
We have the best. Sometimes we have the best intentions. Sometimes we have the best intentions. Sometimes we have the best intentions, and we want to do things for the right reason, right? But if the deciding authority says no, then no is no. It's like that with teachers in the classroom. It's like that with our parents. And it's like that with God, right? However, we have an ability every year to make right what Adam did. You ever heard of the idea of tikkun? What's tikkun?
Exactly.
Tikkun is making something right. But us making something right, one second, I need to fight Tzvi here, okay? Here's a rule in Torch and Talk, we can never let Tzvi win, okay? I'm just joking, right? So we have, even if we have an ability to make it right, Tzvi, that doesn't make what Adam did, right? That doesn't make what Adam did right. So it could be that Adam was wrong for what he did, yet we are given an opportunity to make it right. What do I mean by make it right, by the way? What that means is that by us living our lives in our own reality of overcoming the inclination, right? Your buddy Chris comes up and says, "Hey, what's up, Jake? I'm going to McDonald's. You want to come chill, have a big one?" Right? And you're like, yeah, you know what? I don't know, right? Every time in life that we are making a decision that's overcoming that inclination, what are we basically in effect kind of saying? You know what, God? It's really thanks to this that I am getting closer to you. You know, what Adam did might be wrong, because you did tell him not to eat from the tree. But in my world, it's working, because I'm getting closer to you. And that is what we do. That is our mandate. But that wasn't Adam's mandate. Someone had a question.
What was Moshe's sin?
There was a few.
The main one.
Hitting the rock.
Right. Was he punished for it?
He certainly was.
What was his punishment?
I feel like I'm in a trial.
It's not
What was his punishment was he was not allowed into the land of Israel.
He wasn't allowed to lead the Jews into the land of Israel. He wasn't allowed
into the land of Israel.
But the main point was he wasn't allowed to lead the Jews into the land. He wasn't
allowed into Israel.
Fine. But he wasn't allowed to lead the Jews in.
He wasn't allowed into Israel.
He's like, okay, I'm gonna give it up, but
What was his role in life? What was his purpose?
He was the greatest leader of the Jewish people.
Right, and his original purpose was to lead the Jews from Egypt to the land of Israel, and he wasn't allowed to fulfill that role in life, right? Yes, he wasn't allowed in Israel either, but he wasn't allowed to lead them. He did go into, he didn't.
I don't know if I would say fulfill role. I would say he wasn't able to maybe fill the top potential. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know if I would say that.
I don't see it as a punishment.
You have to remember, in
It's
Judaism, we have a delicate balance
Of course, it was a punishment.
It wasn't a punishment. It was a consequence.
Punishment
you're like,
is
was
about
Moses all he could
consequence.
be?
No, it's
If you
not.
talk with Moses, it was,
What do you consider a punishment?
is when a bad consequence that has an aspect to it that is you're doing this not just to get back at them, but like you did
not
wrong.
to get back,
Can you
it's
provide an
educated.
example of what is a punishment from this rule?
I mean,
Korach being swallowed up by the ground, and
Oh wait, you're arguing that Moshe not being allowed into Israel was not a punishment?
It wasn't a punishment. It was a consequence. He wasn't allowed to lead them in, not because he was a bad person, because he certainly wasn't. Not because he did a bad thing, because
He did a bad thing. God
Fine, he did a bad thing, I know, but he wasn't punished. And hang on, let me finish the thought, alright? Before you argue, let me finish. It wasn't a punishment. It was God who was merely saying, I'm sorry, you're just not the right person to take them into Israel. I can't let you do it.
But that's not what
This is not my thought. This is not mine. I read this in a Chumash. I don't remember who I'm quoting.
Right.
But this isn't a punishment. You're just the wrong person to lead my people to their home. I'm sorry, you did a good job up until
So I want to support what
You were no
Tzvi's saying.
longer the
I
right
do want to
person.
support what Tzvi. I want to support what Tzvi is saying.
That's not my thought.
You had something to say, Daniel?
Oh, I mean, I just like as a counter argument, like maybe just like Hashem has he has like a Rahmanas on us, like he has mercy on us, like I said before, like maybe it's not that, we don't get punished or something like that. Maybe it's that like, we see, Moshe Rabbeinu's sin, like Adam Rishon had sin, like we see this as a recurring theme, like maybe it's like, it has to do with like every Jew, having to do tshuva, like maybe it has something to do with that, let alone, like, instead of just saying like it wasn't a punishment, like just like leave it at that, like maybe like there's some there's some sort of mercy that like, that Hashem gives us, that allows us to come to the point where we do tshuva and wanting.
Yeah, no, that's a big part of it too, but that's later on. I'm not even going that far ahead.
I don't think that God took it personally that Moses hit the rock. He just didn't listen to orders.
By the way,
And it's the same with
a
Adam.
consequence to an action is a
It's
punishment.
not,
Tzvi.
it's a consequence.
Okay, so first I want to support what he's saying, because I heard an idea once, I heard it multiple times, that had Moses gone into Israel, the first thing he would have done would be to build the temple. And I've heard it said that a temple built by Moses would be so great and founded on such holiness that it would never be through natural means able to be destroyed. Okay? And therefore, since we know that in the future the Jewish people are going to sin, and the way God takes out his anger on the Jewish people is by destroying the temple, then God preempted to finish chat.
Okay, fine.
Then God
No, you read the book? He's pretty angry sometimes.
He gets angry.
Yeah, but it's not personal. It's not
I read
angry.
That's my point. That's my point. Yes, there was a negative consequence. In fact, you don't even need to use the word negative, because that's the consequence. But it wasn't, God wasn't like punishing Adam, like, you can't be in my beautiful garden anymore. He was saying, you can't be there because you just aren't able to. You ate from the tree, you now have this knowledge.
That's why Moshe didn't get it.
Okay. Can I ask a question? You tell your kid to go to... You have kids yet, okay? You tell your kid it's bedtime. Go to sleep.
Punishment.
No, I don't want to go to sleep. Okay, you're going now. Now you miss. Now you miss the outing tomorrow. That's a punishment. When you violate.
No, it's different. With your kids, it's education, and
with God it's different.
Okay, fine. But it's
There's two kinds of consequences.
Wait, I think what you
you don't punish them. You're doing it because you're doing it as an incentive to get them to go to bed.
You're right. You're right. Punishment.
I think the key word is anger.
But you never say.
You're right. Shira's right. Don't forget about the anger. Forget about the anger component. There's no anger. It's cause and effect. And God created. Yeah.
It's a consequence. You can argue it's a punishment, but I think what he's talking about, it wasn't one in a fit of anger. It was simply a result.
It's not even to do with anger. It's not you've done bad, now you've got this.
It's a penalty.
Suffer through this. It's not even a penalty. It's not like
You're
got to
thinking
suffer
of it
through
like
this.
the consequence of touching a hot stove. And it's not. It's the consequence
No, I'm not. I'm
of
not.
higher being.
The
Or
infliction,
something with
the
authority.
infliction or imposition of a penalty.
You could
as
argue-
retribution
Google
for an
the
offense.
conversation.
You
What's that?
could argue that it is like
What's
touching a
that?
hot stove.
The
God said,
infliction-
don't touch the hot
What-
stove.
what are you
Touch
defining?
the hot stove. It gets
Punishment.
What's the
The infliction or imposition of a penalty as retribution for an offense.
right? It's not retribution. That's what I'm trying to say. That's a good word. It's not retribution.
So
God,
let me
hang on. Let me finish.
Because
It's
the
not
end was
retribution.
to suffer to
Okay,
get
fine.
salvation.
Let's say your job in life is you're a typist or a piano player, let's say, right? And you lose both your arms in a stupid accident that was your own fault. You're now no longer a piano player. It's not retribution. It's not a punishment. You just can't do it anymore. Adam ate from the tree. He now is a different person. He has a different way of seeing things.
Right, but that's what I'm talking about.
God told him not to.
Yeah, that doesn't change it though.
Yes, it does.
It's not
God
about
didn't
whether
have to
God
banish
told
him from
you
Gan
or not.
Eden. God didn't have to.
He did.
But he did. Because
No,
it was a
he did have
punishment.
to. He did have to. That's why he did it.
It was a punishment.
It wasn't. It wasn't retribution or anything like that.
So
It was.
me.
It was.
Let me ask you.
It was
That's
a
good. It's worked
consequence.
up. It's good.
Let
It's
me
good.
give you a question that might emphasize. So why one of the punishments that he gave them, that he said to the woman, "Be'etzef tel banim," right? Meaning that you're gonna deliver babies in a lot of pain. This is not a punishment.
Maybe Eve was.
I don't know.
I haven't thought about part 3 yet, but
He was like hashtag me too. So Tzvi, what are you saying, Tzvi? Now you're like.
It was a consequence. It was this.
What is the nafkamina of what you're saying? Do anybody know what the word nafkamina is? Meaning, what's the practical difference? Why are you saying this? Where are you getting at with this point?
The reason for it. The reason wasn't God saying you.
The reason for what?
For the consequence of eating, for being kicked out of the garden, for having to work the land. What were the other ones? Someone just commented. But
Mortality.
Very interesting discussion. By that logic, was the Holocaust a punishment from God? Ooh, Lisa, that's a tough one.
Who's she asking? Well, it can be me.
She's asking us. She's.
Well, we don't know. We don't know. There's nothing like this. Is very different because this is written in the Torah, a book directly from God.
Right.
But I've lost my
Train of thought.
thought.
What's the essence of
Right, it was the reason for being kicked out of the garden and having to work the land and the mortality and I don't know about that one. It's not a punishment. It's not God saying, I'm doing this because you went against what I said and I have to punish you. It's no, you ate from the tree. I told you not to eat from the tree because it wasn't a commandment that you have to obey because I'm God and you have to listen. It was I'm telling you, don't eat from the tree because it's like you would tell your kids, don't eat that arsenic. You don't have to give them a reason. It's poison. Don't eat that arsenic, and the kids eventually eat it. It's not. You're not going to punish them. You're going to say, "It's a very bad example." It's a very bad example. It's not you're punishing. It's God said, don't eat from the tree because if you eat from the tree, you'll be different. You'll have this knowledge. You don't need this knowledge. I'm protecting you. Don't eat from the tree. Adam goes to eat from the tree. He's not being punished. God's like, I'm sorry, I warned you. Everything's got to change now.
What is this? Okay.
So hold on. So you're saying it's exactly like the stove thing. It's a natural consequence built into what's going to happen if you do X. It's not, I'm coming down from on high and shaking my finger in your face. It's, you touch the stove, so you're going to get burnt. You ate the fig.
Okay, fine.
So within the fig contains the natural consequence.
Right, it's not a punishment.
But the difference between
Who created that consequence?
I'm not even getting there yet. I'm not there yet. I'm just saying the difference in those two.
This is not my thought either. I read this as well somewhere.
The difference in those two is that one is being enacted by the
Tzvi is saying God isn't
laws.
a vengeful God who is punishing his children, rather a shepherd trying to give them guidance. Okay.
Yes, but it's more than that. It wasn't God saying I have to do this to you now because I have to show you that you did wrong. It's more than that. It's not about you did wrong, I have to change things. It's you are now a different being. The whole point in the tree was that it gave Adam and Eve the knowledge.
Some kind of drug or something that's only.
Well, no. Firstly, everything written up until this point is anyway way beyond our scope of understanding. Anyway, it's not all as plain and straightforward.
Right. Right. We're not taking it literally. Everything we've been discussing here is from different sources that give different perspectives on what's going on. So either way, we just finished by saying this idea.
I'm gonna find where I found this because this isn't just my.
I still have another question.
Yeah.
Why is it mentioned that the snake was barefoot or?
Where does it mention this thing?
Why is it mentioned that the snake was all naked from the rest of the?
Yeah. Does the Yitzhahar already know?
Know what?
Also, one of the punishments.
Oh no! So I think arum in this context might mean foul. I don't know. I don't remember what the translation is meant to be. I think it's referring to the fact that the snake is. Well, actually, back then it wasn't crawling on its stuff.
Lisa Berg-Stanton just said something that she's reading it.
We read it.
No, she said something else.
I don't know. Maybe it was.
No, we read that. God was trying to prevent Adam from losing his innocence. He wanted to keep Adam safe.
It was peyote and it was a dragon. It pushed her into like, how are you gonna push me? You don't have any hands. Like,
That's a very positive way.
Yeah, it's not that big guy.
Maybe just try it.
like peer pressure.
Peer
You get peer pressure to doing it.
Peer pressure. Yeah, you are.
That's
I
a good thing.
don't think.
So 1 second, guys. I want to make this
his favorite creation.
Tzvi, Adam was a hero.
As little sense as it makes to create paradise, create mortality, create
I want to make this practical.
childbirth, and then take it away.
Guys, I want to finish on a practical note, okay? We know that when, God forbid, a close relative dies, what's the custom? To tear a piece of clothing. Why do we tear the piece of clothing? So believe it or not, the tearing of the clothing is actually very relevant with what we've been discussing this entire time. What did we just finish explaining? Let me finish this thought, please. Okay? What did we finish explaining? That before the sin, okay, the entire self-identification of Adam and Eve was one of spiritual identity. I am not my body. My body is merely my clothing. But I am after complete spirituality. As soon as they sinned from the tree, the evil inclination switched from being something external to being something internal, where we now have this quandary of who do I identify with? So when a person dies, one way we comfort the bereaved is by tearing the clothing and letting them know that even though you are naturally correct to be mourning, it is only the clothing that is departed. But the real individual is actually not gone. The real individual has a neshama, has an eternality, which simply went up back to its creator and is not gone. Only the clothing is gone. And that's why, by the way, you're not allowed in Judaism to actually tear your actual flesh, right? First of all, because it's similar to other nations who have done that as part of idol worship. But forget about that. We're not allowed to mutilate our bodies because that's almost giving too much identity to the body, when the body is really fleeting, if you think about it. The body, we were born into it, but after the end of our lives, the body remains. We're going to go back into our bodies. That's one of the 13 principles of Maimonides' 13 principles of faith. However, the real identity that we are is our neshama, and that's what we're striving for every single day of our lives, is to make our identity more about our neshama, falling in line with the Torah, right? The way to make our neshama master over the body is, again, by following in the ways of the Torah, and that's reminiscent of what the message we're sending when we tear the clothing.
Wait, you
Yes.
said that when Adam and Eve lived in paradise, they were only spiritual, they didn't need...
No, they had physicality, but their physicality was not dominant, it was recessive. It was...
They still needed food for a living.
Yes. God told them, you have everything in front of you.
What about tattoo removal?
Oh, God.
I don't know, because you're actually doing more damage to your body.
Yeah.
Further damage, not
Right.
more
Let me know when we
damage.
get
You're
back
carrying
to
more
space.
than...
Yeah.
Back to space?
Yeah, let me know
I
when
always
we get-
thought that not getting tattoos because your body belongs to God.
Huh?
I thought it's because your body belongs to God. That it's stealing.
Yes, that's why,
That's
And I thought that it was like only, that tattoos were only for like the priests and stuff like that. It was like everybody else, not so much. Like, don't
Even
get specific
priests,
things.
Kohanim didn't tattoo their bodies.
You know what's...
And if they did,
No,
it was
but
surface,
they
it was
weren't
not-
supposed to. Everybody else, yeah, you can get a tattoo if you
Yo,
want.
George, you know what's really ironic? People that tattoo Shmai Israel, right?
Star of David,
Yeah.
or the name of Hashem. I've seen
seen
people
that.
have the name of
yeah,
Hashem.
that's kind
I saw a guy who has a
That's terrible because
he's
like
a right
shower,
there on his neck, and I'm
bathroom.
like, I see your neck, and he's like,
I know.
he's like, oh, you wouldn't get it.
It's
It's in Hebrew. And I'm like,
plural, no?
I agree.
You'd remember the end.